back to my channel. My name is Danielle, and in this video I'm going to be teaching you guys how to do a fade haircut at home. Most of you have seen the first video that I did, and this one is just going to be like an updated version of that. It's still going to be pretty detailed, and I'm going to show you guys exactly what I do now because I feel like I do some things a little bit differently than I did in that video since that was a couple years ago, and I've been cutting both my son's hair since then. So let's go ahead and jump into the video. So the first thing you want to do is grab your clippers, and you can use whatever clippers you have on hand. You definitely don't have to go out and buy brand new clippers just to do this haircut successfully. If you have clippers already, then use those. As long as they cut, you should be fine. But if you don't have any, or you know you need new clippers, then I will link a few below. These are not available anymore, but I will link something similar in the description box so you guys can get some if you need some. Okay, so I got my clippers, and these particular ones are color coded, and they tell you what length each of the guards cuts the hair to. So for this haircut, I'm going to use two guards. One is the red one, or number 1 guard, which cuts at 1/8 of an inch. And the second one is the purple guard, or number 2, which cuts at 1/4 of an inch. The first thing you have to do is detangle the hair. There's no way you can run clippers through it if the hair is tangled, so you have to go ahead and comb it through. So in order to start the detangling process, I'm going to use this Cantu leave-in conditioner, and that's what I'm going to use to soften his hair so that I can go ahead and run the comb through it. And quarantine got us in here looking crazy, but it's all good. I haven't touched his hair since all this started, so it's like matted, there's lint in it, and it just looks terrible. So that's what we're here to fix today. Okay, so I know a lot of you had questions about the clippers and the teeth forward, the teeth backward, the teeth up, the teeth down, and I'm not a barber, so I'm not quite sure what the technical terms for these things are, nor do you need to know that to cut your child's or your husband's hair at home or your own hair. So I'm going to explain it the best way I know how. I'm showing you guys up close the teeth of the clippers, and you can see that when I press the lever on the side toward the front of the clipper or forward, the teeth go down, and when you're cutting in that position, the hair is going to be shorter. As opposed to you pressing the lever backwards or toward the back of the clippers, that position will cut the hair longer. So the closer the teeth are to the body of the clippers, the shorter the hair is going to get cut, and the farther away the teeth are from the body of the clippers, the longer the hair is going to get cut. So hopefully that makes sense and you guys all understand now, and everyone will stop expecting me to speak in technical terms that are irrelevant to the point of this video, which is to teach people who are not barbers how to do this haircut at home. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and start the haircut. The first thing I do is always the same. You got to oil the clippers. There's really no way you can preserve the life of the blade on your clippers if you don't oil it regularly. So always oil it before you begin a haircut. And you don't have to have any specific oil, or at least I don't think you do. I'm just using plain old like canola oil spray. I haven't had the oil that comes with the clippers in a very long time, and I've just been using this, and it's been working perfectly fine. And all I do once I get them sprayed is just wiggle the handle while running them. Then I just take a paper towel and wipe off the excess oil, and I'm ready to start cutting. So to begin the cut, I'm gonna push the teeth on the clippers all the way back to the lowest position so that I can get the closest cut possible. And then I begin to make my first layer. How big this layer is up to you. How high you want it to go up is up to you. Just keep in mind that the hair is going to be shortest right here. So think about it in terms of where you want your tapering to happen. So if you want the hair to start to taper off into the shortest part around the temple, then put your first layer about where I'm putting mine. But if you want it to be like a little closer to the ear, you can put it a little lower. If you want it a little bit higher, like toward the crown, you can put it there. So just kind of envision what you want the end result to be. And then that's where you can kind of determine where you want that first layer to go. Alright, so the next step for me is to sweep away some of that hair just because you don't want them to get clogged. So it just makes it cut a little bit easier if you just clean the hair in between. So next I'm going to push the lever halfway between the forward and back points. So just for an example, let's say if I push the lever all the way back and the teeth all the way forward, that was 3/4 of an inch. Now let's say if I push the teeth all the way back and the lever forward, that's 1/4 inch. I want to get a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to put it right into the middle position. And that way I'm cutting the hair just a little bit longer than I did the first time. And I'm creating kind of like a gradient effect and blending upward. So I chose to make this layer about a 1/2 inch toward the back and more like a 1/4 inch toward the front. And that's what I would recommend. But of course, it's up to you and you can do whatever you think is best. Okay, so now for the third layer, we're going to push the teeth all the way forward because we want the hair to be cut as long as possible for this layer. So the first layer, the teeth were all the way back or closest to the body of the clippers. On the second layer, they were halfway between forward position and the back position. And on this layer, they are farthest away from the body of the clippers, or the teeth are at their longest position. Okay, so now we're moving on to the next layer. I'm going to drop the teeth all the way down again, or push the lever all the way forward because I want the teeth in the lowest possible position. And then I'm going to attach the number 1 guard, which is the red one, and it cuts at 1/8 of an inch. If you have a 1/16 inch guard, then this is a good place to use it because it's going to be a better transition, because obviously that's going to cut the hair even shorter than the 1/8, but I don't have a 1/16 inch guard, so I'm going to use the 1/8, and then I'll just have to do more blending in between. But definitely use a 1/16 inch guard if you have one, and if not, just use your 1/8 and I'll show you how to blend it. So for the next layer, I'm going to push the teeth all the way forward by taking the lever all the way back. And if you don't want to thin it out at the temple too much, you can kind of skip that area when you're doing this. And that way, when you're looking straight on at the person, you can still see that fullness there in the temples. And it keeps some hair there for you to do the shape up with, because then it's going to end up looking kind of like a crew cut as opposed to a fade. But this is just a starting point, and of course it's personal preference. It's your hair. You can do whatever you want with it and do what you think looks best. I mean, over time you'll come up with your own way of doing it, but as a starting point, this is what I would recommend. Now we're going to focus on blending, so I'm going to pull the lever backward, which is going to push the teeth forward, and then I'm going to start working in a downward motion, and that is going to help to take the bulk out of the top section so that it kind of helps to fade that line of demarcation a little bit. And you want to work right along that line. You don't want to like go too high up because you'll obviously take off more hair than you meant to, and this is going to get you a little bit closer to having a truly undetectable fade, but you're not quite there. You got to do a little bit more, so I'm going to show you guys what to do next. The next thing I'm going to do is take the clippers and run them sideways along that line. And that's just another technique that I've come up with to kind of feather it a little bit more, because it can be really hard and tricky to get that line to completely go away. And if you can get it to this point, even if you stopped here, you'd be in good shape, because the hair is going to grow within a couple days anyway. So it'll just disappear over the next few days as the hair starts to grow out. But of course, you won't have to stop here, and I will give you options to continue to make it look even better. So y'all saw me drop the teeth down to the lowest position, and now I'm going to go over this line one more time because it's going to cut it a little bit lower than it did when I had it in the forward position. So it's just another way to try and blend it as much as you possibly can. It's just one more technique and one more step you can take to try and get yourself as close to a perfect blend as you can get. Of course, there's no such thing as perfection, but you want to get as close as possible. So hopefully this is helpful. If it is, just leave me a comment below and let me know what you think. And I would also not object to you liking this video. We are getting down to the end. We're almost done. All I'm going to do is put the number 1 guard back on. I'm leaving the teeth as they were, so they're in the lowest position. And I'm going in a downward motion to create the transition between the crown and the fade. It's kind of hard to capture this on camera, but in person you can clearly see that there's like a ridge that's keeping it from being completely seamless. So this is where it is blended and this is where it's not. And then I took a screenshot so you guys could see it up close. So hopefully that makes sense and you guys understand what I mean. So this is really it as far as the actual haircut goes and the fading techniques. I really just keep going back and forth over those areas until I get it blended to where I feel like it looks good. It's one of those things that it just takes practice to learn how to do it and to know which direction to do it in. So go up, go down, go sideways, go and do whatever you got to do to get it to where you feel like it looks good. So that's honestly the best advice I can give you, is to just keep going until you're happy. That's what I do every single time, and I just don't stop until I think it looks good. So that's definitely what I would tell you to do as well. Now we're done with the haircut, so we're going to move on to the shape up, and to do that I'm using these wall detailers. Of course, you don't have to have this exact pair of clippers. This is what I have. You can use this. If you have the Andis outliners, you can use those. I mean, you really can use whatever you already have, but I'm going to put the link to these in the description box because I really do like these, and I have had them for a couple years now and they've been working perfectly fine. So yeah, I'm going to link these below, but use whatever you have. And if you're in the market for some new ones, you can go ahead and check the link out in the description box. So before we really get into the shape up, I'm going to give you a little bit of advice. The first thing you want to do is comb the hairline down, just because it makes it a whole lot easier to see what's happening and what's going on. And if you've never done this before, or you just don't trust yourself to do it freehand, then just take a cosmetic pencil and draw it out first. And then you can get the hairline exactly how you want it and then just cut along that line. But whether you're doing it freehand or you're using a cosmetic pencil to draw the line first, make sure you do this with a very light touch, because these clippers are sharp and they will cut. And also, once you put it down, just kind of drag it a little bit to get the extra hairs, or you can kind of go in an up and down motion to clean up the hairs underneath the actual hairline. But when you're putting the clippers down onto the skin, do it very lightly, because you just don't want to dig into the skin because it will cut. that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and you're able to use this to do your own fade haircut at home, especially during quarantine, because I know it's hard to get out there and do pretty much anything. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.